Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Why, hello there.
So, guys, we wanted to bring you this info, and I felt extreme urgency when seeing this info come out with what messages we got, like in the last night, through the Galactics as well.
Yeah, there's some information coming out through them, and we also have some changes that are coming in. It all has to do with this conjunction.
Yeah, there's big energies coming. And so when you see here, we're looking at space weather, you see this peak right here. And we go and we look over here. And this is from ISWA at nasa.gov. And you can see this emission coming off the sun there, that flare, boom. And, this is something that the Galactics last night were telling us to be aware of. And Cindy got multiple messages about this.
Well, yeah, they're actually moving their ships out of the way of these energies because of it's just really unpredictable, even to them, which I was surprised, but I guess, nobody can predict everything. But they said that last time this happened, there were earth changes. They don't know exactly what's going to happen this time, but they want people to be prepared.
Yeah, and what she's referring to is the conjunction, the great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. And as it says here at Space Weather, something special is definitely happening in the sunset sky. It's the great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. The two giant planets are converging for a close encounter, the likes of which have not been seen since the Middle Ages. Yeah, like the 1200s. And so what the Galactics said was that this energy, as we've been talking about, can have an effect on the sun, a big effect on the sun. And so, right above that comment about the Great Conjunction, we see a solar flare alert. Earth orbiting satellites have just detected a C7 class solar flare coming from sunspot AR 2790. UV radiation from the flare caused a minor shortwave radio blackout over South America. Also, the blast might have hurled a CME in our direction, which appears to be the case, but we will have to see. So that's a coronal mass ejection. Stay tuned for more updates as information arises. And so just to cover a couple of things, let's go here first. Talking about classifying the difference, classifying solar eruptions here. Solar flares are giant explosions on the sun that send energy, light, and high-speed particles into space. These flares are often associated with solar magnetic storms known as coronal mass ejections, CMEs. While these are the most common solar events, the sun can also emit streams of very fast protons, known as solar energetic particle events, and disturbances in the solar wind known as co-rotating interactive regions. All of these can produce a variety of storms on Earth that can, if strong enough, interfere with shortwave radio communications, GPS signals, and the Earth's power grid, among other things. One of our family members sent in something yesterday or the day before, saying that they've been monitoring, and I know they've been monitoring the position of the sun, and our compass point, so to speak, and they thought it was 11 degrees off all of a sudden. Now, the Inuit back there up in Alaska and in Canada, they came out years ago saying the sun has changed. The position, everything has changed position. And we are going through a magnetic reversal right now. And, I was talking to David at Adapt 2030, because he watches this all the time, and he talks to Suspicious Observers, Ben, as well. And there's no data coming out. They're hiding this. They are hiding this. There's some people, I think is it Maverick Star Reloaded, I think, that is keeping track on their own, because they don't want to tell us, for whatever reasons, exactly what's going on. So there's different types of flares. The biggest flares are known as X-class flares, based on the classification system that divides solar flares according to their strength. The smallest ones are A-class, near background levels, followed by B, C, M, and X. Similar to the Richter scale for earthquakes, each letter represents a 10-fold increase in energy output. So an X is 10 times an M and 100 times a C. Within each letter class, there is a finer scale from 1 to 9. Now, generally speaking, C-class and smaller flares are too weak to noticeably affect the Earth. M-class flares can cause brief radiation blackouts at the poles and minor radiation storms that might endanger astronauts. And then comes the X-class flare. Although the X-class is the last letter, these flares are more than 10 times the power of an X1. So an X-class flare can go higher than a 9. The most powerful flare ever measured with modern methods in 2003 during the last solar maximum. It was so powerful that it overloaded sensors measuring it. The sensors cut out at 15, but the flare was estimated to be as high as an X28. And then we get to things like the Carrington event, which, is something that's of a massive scale. Now, the thing is that we are in this time period with a grand solar minimum, which lowers our shields. Our magnetosphere is the shields of the planet. And then we also have the magnetic pole reversal going on. So what was true in the past as far as not causing issues is not necessarily the case now.
Right. And there's just so many things going on all at once. And they're right around the corner. I mean, this conjunction is on winter solstice. And the last time this happened was 800 years ago. And we're looking at it again. It's just so close. I'm just kind of in shock.
Yes, because the Galactics said, look out for possible, major like earthquake and volcanic activity. That's what they're talking about. They're also talking about, and they have been talking about since August 6th, the fact that by the end of the year, there's a good chance that we'll lose the grid for a period of time, or we'll have isolated blackouts that come in. And so, both these things they've been saying for a while. And last night they came in and were much more urgent about it. And that's when they told Cindy they were actually moving the ships and, to just be prepared because we might lose power. And also you might see some major earthquakes and you might see some major volcanic eruptions kicking off. They said that back in 1224 or 1226 is when the last time we had this happen. Mountains were moving.
Yeah, mountains did move, and so naturally they're concerned this time too.
So this was a C7. So this is at the upper end of a C class as far as that goes. And we're going to give you a little background too. There are many kinds of eruptions on the sun. Solar flares and coronal mass ejections both involve gigantic explosions of energy, but are otherwise quite different. The two phenomena do occur sometimes at the same time. Indeed, the strongest flares are almost always correlated with coronal mass ejections. But they emit different things. They look and travel differently, and they have different effects near planets. Both eruptions are created when the motion of the sun's interior contorts its magnetic fields. Like a sudden release of a twisted rubber band, the magnetic field explosively realigns, driving vast amounts of energy into space. And this phenomenon can create a sudden flash of light, a solar flare. Flares can last minutes to hours and contain tremendous amounts of energy. Traveling at the speed of light, it takes 8 minutes for the light from a solar flare to reach Earth. Some of the energy released in the flare also accelerates very high energy particles that can reach Earth in tens of minutes. The magnetic conditions can also create a different kind of explosion that hurls solar matter into space. These are coronal mass ejections, also known as CMEs. One can think of the explosion using the physics of a cannon. The flare is like the muzzle flash that you see, which can be seen anywhere in the vicinity. The CME is the cannonball, propelled forward in a single preferential direction. This mass ejected from a barrel only affecting a targeted area. So the CME, an immense cloud of magnetized particles, hurls into space, traveling at over 1 million miles per hour. The hot material, called plasma, takes up to 3 days to reach Earth. The difference between the two types of explosions can be seen through solar telescopes. with flares appearing as a bright light and CMEs appearing as enormous fans of gas swelling into space. And flares and CMEs also have different effects on the Earth as well. The energy from a flare can disrupt the area of the atmosphere through which the radio waves travel. This can lead to degradation and, at worst, temporary blackouts in navigation and communications signals. On the other hand, CMEs can funnel particles into near-Earth space. A CME can jostle Earth's magnetic fields, creating currents that drive particles down towards Earth poles. When these react with oxygen and nitrogen, they help create aurora, also known as the northern and southern lights. Additionally, the magnetic charges can affect a variety of human technologies. High-frequency radio waves can be degraded, radios transmit static, and GPS coordinates stray by a few yards. It was interesting. We had a GPS coordinate the other day that was off by I'd say half a mile. The magnetic oscillations can also create electrical currents in utility grids on Earth that can overload electrical systems when power companies are not prepared. One thing is the same about flares and CMEs. A fleet of NASA heliophysics observatories in space are always on the watch for these explosions. The other thing that they're not talking about is the interaction with the core of the Earth, which is magnetic as well, which can definitely bring about volcanic activity and quakes.
And not to mention what is happening to our own bodies and our own brains. There's so much going on right now, you guys.
Yes, because this changes our consciousness as well, and we could feel it, emotionally as well as physically, mentally. So, everybody is unique and might feel different things from this. And this one appears to be heading in our direction, so we'll see perhaps the effects of this in 2 to 3 days. Look for an uptick in volcanic activity and some larger quakes to come.
Yes, and then more and more intense as we come closer to this conjunction, before and after the conjunction.
Yeah, so again, the Galactics have also given us, this info. And when I saw this happen after the message that they gave us, and I was planning on doing another video after we were done seeing people all day, I felt like we had to get this out now. So we wanted to share that with you again. The Grand Conjunction is going to bring about a lot of different things. And the message I got was it was a changing of the guard. And we may see some sort of solid defining geopolitical info in the next 2 weeks that will give us an idea of how things are going to come down.
Yeah, so let's just all be stable, be prepared, and just be safe.
As always, guys, thank you for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Anybody that wants to book a session with us, we work on a donation basis, so we leave up the amount to you, and we do appreciate your support. Just reach out to us at EEARTS at ProtonMail or evolutionaryenergyarts at gmail.com.
God bless and namaste.
God bless and namaste.